Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be making my bracket predictions for the spring knockouts for the Eastern region. There's two brackets, there's an A bracket and a B bracket. I'm going to do both of them in this video, but I'm going to just start with the A bracket, do the entirety of the A bracket, and then we'll move on to the B bracket. If you didn't see, earlier this week I did a video talking about the 6 contenders teams that are going to be competing in this tournament. I will link to that in the description as well as in the cards if you want to see that. And of course, yesterday I did my picks for the Western region. So if you didn't see those will also be linked in the cards. And that one will also be linked at the end of this video if you did not see that one. So those games are happening today, people. But these games don't kick off until Saturday, so safe to do this video for today. So let's start with the A bracket. You can see here the 6 teams competing in this A bracket. You have Dreamers, Pokerface, and Rhodes, the 3 contenders teams on this side of the bracket, while Seoul Dynasty, the Guangzhou Charge, and the Hangzhou Spark are your 3 Overwatch League teams on this side of the bracket, meaning the other 6 teams, of course, are on the other bracket. So let's start with this top. We have Dreamers versus Pokerface. Pokerface comes into this tournament as one of the top seeds overall in the APAC region, or in the Eastern kind of Korean region for contenders. That's the word I'm looking for. Pokerface, very, very good team. Lots of former Overwatch League pros on it. Players like Muse and Valentine are on this roster. Dreamers, another roster that has some former Overwatch League players. Players like Ligue, EasyHan, and of course, Dreamer is on that roster. Pokerface is a very good roster. They're one of the top 2 teams in Korean contenders based on what we kind of can gather. They haven't played some of the other teams that we look at as kind of number 1. So this is an interesting matchup. I think if you look at this game here, this has the potential to be very, very good. Dreamers, despite being a somewhat low-seeded Korean contenders team, got 2nd place in their region, or in their group in the Spring Stage Open. So they're very, very good, right? They are really, really, really kind of punching above what they would maybe be perceived as based on kind of where they are. But I think Pokerface is the better team here. I think they're the more kind of solid all-around kind of better contenders roster. But I think it'll be close. I really do think Dreamers has a lot of really good talent. I think they will make it close. They'll make it interesting. It's always fun to kind of see contenders teams with some known and unknown talent kind of go up against these teams. But I do think right now, Dreamers is the better of the 2 teams, and I think they will take this matchup against... Or sorry, I think Pokerface is a better team, and they'll take this matchup against Dreamers. Rhodes versus Seoul Dynasty, interesting one. Seoul Dynasty, Overwatch League team. I think Dynasty should win this game pretty easily. Rhodes is technically the bottom-seeded team here in this tournament, or at least on this side of the bracket. They got 3rd in their group in the Spring Stage Opens. They're a Chinese roster with a lot of Chinese talent, former Chengdu players, stuff like that. Seoul Dynasty have not looked particularly great, but I just think in terms of pure talent and just kind of overall performance, the Dynasty shouldn't really struggle against Rhodes. I think it's a 3-0, honestly. Dynasty are the better team, far and away, in my opinion. And so I give the win there to the Dynasty. Moving into this second round, Pokerface versus Guangzhou Charge. This is an interesting game. I think this is honestly, arguably a better game than Dynasty versus Spark, if only because we don't really know what to expect with these 2. We haven't seen them play each other before. It's the first time we're going to see these 2 teams match up against each other, so it'll be really interesting to kind of see what happens. The Charge look very good right now. They are certainly one of the favorites. They are the number 1 seed technically in the APAC region right now by differential. So they are kind of going into this tournament as the theoretical favorite to get out of this group. I think Pokerface will challenge them a bit. I think Pokerface has some talented players, but one of my big things I always say is there's a reason why the players on Pokerface aren't in the Overwatch League. I think meta-wise, there's a potential that we see certain maps and stuff like that where Pokerface are able to be a little bit more kind of comfortable, especially when there's something like Muse in, right, where they can play more of those main tank heroes, which are not the Charge's specialty. But what we've seen out of the Charge support line and damage, I've been very critical of Valentine in the past. I did not think he was really the excellent piece for the Uprising the past couple of years. I think what we've seen at the Jimmy and Choice one is phenomenal. I think the Charge are just super, super talented. So I'm going to say the Charge win. I'll give Pokerface a map. I think they're a good enough team that they have Overwatch League experience. I don't think this stage is going to be too much for them in terms of, like, I don't think they're going to be overwhelmed or anything like that. But I do think that Charge are the better team. They should take that one. Spark vs. Dynasty, when we last saw them play, was not particularly close. I think Dynasty took a map. Maybe it was against Charge that took a map. They may have gotten 3-0 by the Spark. I don't remember exactly. I think the Spark are the better team. They've struggled a bit, but I think the Dynasty have problems. I don't think they look great unless Void is in, which is odd. I think Void is undefeated on maps, if my memory serves me correctly. He's very good. Maybe it's just on Shambali Monastery. He looks very good. But I think the Spark are the better team, right? Even though the Spark have struggled a bit against the Charge and the Infernal, I still think they're the better roster. I still think they are overall the better team. I'm going to say it's a 3-0. I just think that they will get a lot of their stuff together for this particular matchup. I think they're going to kind of button themselves up, kind of get themselves in a better position here. And I think they'll take this match over the Seoul Dynasty. Now we move on to the lower bracket here. These matches are going to be next week, so these are not this weekend. Only the upper bracket first 2 rounds across both tournaments will be this weekend. So just keep that in mind as we go on with this video. You can see the dates here. May 27th, May 21st, May 20th. But here we go. Dreamers versus Seoul Dynasty would be this first matchup here. This one, I think, would be more interesting than Rhodes versus Seoul Dynasty. I think Rhodes has a ceiling that's not super high. Dreamers, I think, actually is a very interesting team because I think they have a lot more potential height that they could reach, potential peaks. They didn't look particularly great when they played O2 Blast in the Opens, but I do think they're a pretty good team, and I think that they have talent in very interesting places, and I think they're honestly more well-rounded than the Seoul Dynasty are. If you think about, like, the Dynasty, like, one of the biggest gripes and complaints we have with them is their support line's kind of questionable because they don't have like a dedicated main support player. They don't have someone who's, like, traditionally a main support player. Their tanks have been kind of interesting to look at. Whereas Dreamers, like, they have supports, right? They have Donghun, they have Misen, those two. Donghun's a main support player, Misen's a flex support player. Like, they know what they are. They have their whole thing kind of sorted out. They have 2 good damage players with Spectre and Easyhan, which is also not really a problem for the Dynasty. And then tank-wise, they have that rotation very similarly. So it's the type of thing where I think that Dreamers are a little bit more flexible than the Dynasty, but I think the overall talent potential for the Dynasty is higher when you consider players like, you know, Prophet, who's obviously an incredible player, the other Prophet, Void, like, players that are very, very good on the Seoul Dynasty that I think are the difference maker here. So I think this will be a relatively competitive series. I think Dreamers will be able to push the Dynasty a bit, maybe take 2 maps. I think they can definitely take 1 map, but I think the Dynasty should be able to win this series, knock Dreamers out of the tournament there. Rhodes versus Pokerface. I think Pokerface should win this one pretty easily. I think they're the better team in pretty much every metric. I just think that they look better. They've been way stronger as a team. I think they just have more talent across the board. They have a lot more Overwatch League talent. Obviously, Rhodes does have players that were in the Overwatch League, right? Like, they have Coldest and they have Aprita, but they don't have talent that was, like, really, really good in the Overwatch League in the same way that, like, Pokerface has Muse, who won a stage, even if he was a little bit kind of lackluster at times. I think that when you just look across the board at who is on this Pokerface team, I think they just look like a better roster. And so, to me, Pokerface should take this one. Let's move up to the game up here between the Guangzhou Charge and the Hangzhou Spark. Last time these 2 teams played, it was a 3-0 for the Charge. Very good look from the Charge. The Charge, very good team. We know they're the best team right now by standings in the Eastern region. Really talented team. The Spark, I think, are a team that I want to see adjust a little bit. I want to see them pivot a bit into how they play. I think their Somber comps are fine. I don't think they're incredible. And I think that what this team really needs to do is just find a composition. Like, to me, if they matched the Charge by running stuff like Hanzo and Tracer, I think they arguably would have had a better series. It was still a pretty close series. It was a 3-0, but it was a very close 3-0. I think this is definitely a closer match this time around than it was the first time around. Spark want revenge. Spark are going to be coming to try to take that throne. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of a difference in terms of how they play, especially considering this game will be next weekend, right? They would have time to watch some of that film. They would have time to kind of scrim and get themselves ready. So I think that this is a place where you look and you feel pretty good because you're in a better position now after having kind of a week to really get yourself ready. I think the Charge are favored to win. I think they will take it, but I think it's close. I think it's a 3-2. I think this one's actually the 5-mapper that we hoped we would have gotten the last time around. And I think that this is the Charge locking in a spot in the finals for this A bracket. Soul Dynasty versus Poker Face down here. This game, to me, is a scary game for the Soul Dynasty. I think Poker Face, just in terms of talent, who they have on this roster, they have good players on this roster, right? There is a reason why a lot of the players on this roster were in the Overwatch League in the past, even if they're not anymore. And I think in terms of just like well-roundedness, they are significantly more well-rounded, even more so than what Dreamers was. I think if Dreamers can push the Dynasty a bit, this team absolutely should be able to, right? You have tons of tank flexibility, you have tons of damage flexibility, you have supports that can kind of play multiple different things. So I think this will be a tough game for the Dynasty, and I think this is going to be one of those games where the Dynasty have to play well. I think you have to expect Prophet on his best. You have to expect, Void and also the best out of Bellisria. You need both of them to kind of step up big. The support line is always the question for the Dynasty. What is the kind of meta like? What's the composition like? I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the Dynasty. They are the Overwatch League team. They are a team with pros for a reason. But I will say that I think Poker Face will push them, will challenge them, but I think ultimately the Dynasty will be the team that locks it up and takes it this time around. That gives us 2 more matches here in this A bracket. Soul Dynasty versus Hangzhou Spark for the lower bracket finals. Very interesting match here. I think, obviously, we would have already seen them play. I think the Spark are in a better spot right now. To me, the Dynasty, are potentially going to be challenged by, and they're going to have to kind of like prove that they can beat top-level contenders teams. The Spark are competing with top-level Overwatch League teams in this region. I really don't think it's particularly close, and the Spark right now are just simply better. I think they take that one, and we get a rematch of Guangzhou versus Hangzhou. Generally speaking, I think the Charge should be able to win. If these are split games where Guangzhou wins the first match and Hangzhou wins the second match, or Hangzhou wins the first match, Guangzhou wins the second match, I wouldn't be surprised. I think these two teams are relatively close together. I think the Spark understand now, hey, we are kind of playing lower than maybe we should have. You think historically Chengdu, which a lot of the Spark roster comes from Chengdu, and even like the staff comes from Chengdu, they were honestly like, they would be like middling to average sometimes in qualifier games, and they get to the tournament and all of a sudden they just start winning games and they just look really, really good. That was kind of the key to their success in 2021. So it's interesting to me to see this team, what they do, what they bring. I'll be intrigued. I would like to see the Spark qualify because I think what they have done with their roster is really interesting. But I think the storyline around the Charge is just phenomenal. And so I'm going to give it to the Charge, but I'm going to say another close series. I'm going to say a 4-2. Not a 4-3 this time around, but I will say 4-2 for this one. And that would put the Guangzhou Charge as the first of the 2 Eastern region teams to qualify for the Mid-Season Madness, coming out of the A bracket. So now let's move on down to the B bracket, which I think is the arguably easier of the 2 brackets. You can see the 6 teams here. You have Panthera and O2 Blast, and Sin Prisa Gaming as your 3 contenders teams. And then the Shanghai Dragons, Seoul Infernal, and Dallas Fuel as your Overwatch League teams on this side of the bracket. Once again, first 4 matches here will be this weekend, and then the following matches after that will take place next weekend and the weekend following. So the first match will in this bracket will be Panthera versus O2 Blast. O2 Blast is the contenders team to watch in this tournament. Obviously, they have ties to the San Francisco Shock. They're the San Francisco Shock Academy team, technically. And so they have a lot of talent that could make it to the Overwatch League, as well as Marvel, of course, who was in the Overwatch League once upon a time. So this is a team that has a lot of talent. We know kind of this team has a lot of what it takes. Very real potential. Some of the players on this roster now are in the Overwatch League by season's end. That's the type of roster we're talking about here when we look at O2 Blast. Also, Opener and Irony, their support line, also Overwatch League veterans. So Panthera does have their own set of some kind of Overwatch League history and talent, of course. Fate is the kind of leader of this team. Joined the team relatively recently. Since he joined, I think they've kind of had to prove themselves through that Spring Stage Open. He joined the team like right before that. But he's here now. He's on the team. And he's joined by Becky and Nice as other players with Overwatch League experience. So I think when you just look at the highs, O2 Blast has some of the best rookies that haven't made it, or best potential rookies that haven't made it, as well as some interesting players in the tank role and some of those veterans that they have. Panthera, to me, Fate is kind of the difference maker. If he can play very, very well, this team could kind of compete. I think this is going to be a good match. Honestly, this might be the best match of this side of the bracket. I think O2 Blast should win. I'll say 3-2, though. I don't think we saw these two teams play, but I do really like what we've seen from Panthera. I love a lot of the players on this roster, especially Fate. Like, I want to see Fate do well. I want to see Fate have a good run. I really want to see a Panthera Shanghai Dragons rematch so badly. I don't think we're going to get it, but I would love to see Fate just destroy the Shanghai Dragons. I think that would be phenomenal if we did get to see that. But moving on with this next game, which is Sin Prisa Gaming versus the Shanghai Dragons. I don't really think Shanghai looks all that good, if I'm being honest with you. I think they have a lot of areas where I don't think this team is phenomenal. Where I do think they look good, though, is with their damage duo of Viper and Hisu. They've looked very, very good. Fletta's been pretty middling. He hasn't looked great. When he plays well, the team looks okay. But they also don't have the best kind of support line. I don't love the Gangnam Jin Iris support duo. But SPG here, Sin Prisa Gaming, they're also a pretty lackluster roster. They do have 2U, an Overwatch League veteran, which is nice to have. It's not completely unknown quantities on this roster. But I don't think in general they're looking that strong. They were one of the bottom two teams coming out of the Spring Stage Opens, obviously. That's why they have to play against an Overwatch League team here. But they could do a little something, maybe, potentially, a couple Overwatch League guys here. But I think the Dragons are the better team. I think coaching-wise, they should just be better. They should be stronger. I think they should take this one. So I'm going to say it's a 3-1. I think they have enough talent on SPG from some of those Overwatch League veterans and potential rookie talent that they could get a win here on a map. But I think the Shanghai Dragons should be able to win this one with relative ease. Next, we have the O2 Blast Soul Infernal matchup. Could be a banger. Could be an uber, mega, ultra, giga banger. But I think the Soul Infernal right now are playing super well. I think we're seeing Mag play incredible Overwatch right now. And then 3 and Zest are firing on all cylinders. The support line for the Infernal is really, really good. As much as I think O2 Blast should be a pretty good team, and I think they're arguably the best contenders team in the world right now across all regions, the Soul Infernal, like I said before with the Soul Dynasty, the Soul Infernal aren't punching and playing around to try to, see if they're better than contenders teams. They've already proven they're better than the Guangzhou Chars. They've already beaten the Hangzhou Spark. Like, they've beaten some of the best teams in the region already. I think just in terms of coaching, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of talent, I think they should be able to take this one. And I think they will be victorious over the... I think they'll be victorious over 2 Blast. I think Soul Infernal is just a better team right now. I think they look like arguably the best team in the Eastern region right now. Despite the fact that they're number 2, seeding-wise, I think they're arguably better than the Guangzhou Charge. Shanghai Dragons versus Dallas Fuel. 2 teams who are in weird spots. The Fuel, despite the fact that I don't think their tank position and their tank game is the best right now, they're the better team. I think when these 2 teams played recently, they played last week, it wasn't close. It was a roll for the Fuel. I think it happens again. They have more talent, and I think they just look more consistent and solid in tank and support. So I think Fuel will take this one kind of easily over the Shanghai Dragons. Let's move on to the lower bracket here. We have Panthera versus Shanghai Dragons, which I lied, actually. Here we go. This would be that matchup, Fate versus the Shanghai Dragons. Isn't that great? I manifested it to come true already. I think Shanghai should be favored in this game. As much as I think that they have problems and that they have some kind of issues, To be fair, Shanghai is much better coaching with Moon. They have really good, like I said, Viper and Hisu have been so good. I mean, Viper has like an 80% pulse stick rate. Something absurd like that. I mean, he has been absolutely incredible for this team so far. I think they have problems. I don't think they're a great team, but I think infrastructure-wise, they should be better with Moon as the coach. I think they're still fine in terms of just their overall level of talent. I think Panthera will be able to challenge them a bit, but I think it'll probably be like a 3-1, maybe a 3-2. If they're lucky, but I think Shanghai should be able to win this game. I don't think they should be losing to Panthera at this stage, honestly, but we'll see what happens there. Then you have O2 Blast versus Sin Prisa Gaming. O2 Blast is better. I mean, there's no question here. Contenders teams, you usually get a little bit more discrepancy between kind of like your best contenders team and your third best contenders team is usually much wider of a gap than your best Overwatch League team and your third best Overwatch League team. I think O2 Blast is just phenomenal. They're really, really good. They have talent. They have infrastructure. They have coaching. They have connections. I think they just look very good right now. They've been dominant over the past several years. So, yeah, I think they take this one and win that game. Soul Inferno versus Dallas Fuel. They played recently. I do think the Fuel are looking better now than they did then. But I still think the Infernal are the better roster here. I think they are the better team here. And I think they will take this one. I'm going to say a 3-1. It was a 3-0 last time they played. But I do think the Infernal won't be as dominant in this tournament. I think the Fuel are looking better. They found their comfort. There's more time here to kind of consider, like I said, in the A bracket. This would be a week after their previous matches, right? They would go a week without playing games, which I think benefits these teams because it allows you to have some time to kind of look and see what you're going with. Dallas is a very good coach in Rush. They're the defending champions. They have talent. I don't think they're going to be an easy team to beat in terms of this matchup this time around. And if you think about it, they know this is the only game they have that weekend. If they make it this far, so they're going to throw everything at it. I think it'll be relatively close, but I do think the Infernal have the edge, just based on what we've seen from them. O2 Blast versus Shanghai Dragons. Very interesting one. Generally speaking, I don't think contender teams will be able to beat the Overwatch League teams. This game here is the one that I think could be the exception. I think O2 Blast right now is the favorite among contenders teams. If any contenders team is going to make it out of their bracket and make it into the Midseason Madness, it would be O2 Blast. Tons of talent, tons of history, really good players, really good coaching, really good infrastructure, all that type of stuff. They're very, very good. Shanghai has some talent. They have good coaching. But genuinely, I don't think Shanghai is a very solid team. And one of the problems that this team has is that they're backed by an organization that basically has nothing to do with Blizzard anymore and wants nothing to do with Blizzard anymore. They want to be done with Blizzard, right? They cut ties with Blizzard. They hate Blizzard, basically. So Shanghai doesn't have the most well-rounded roster. A lot of that comes down to funding. So I think O2 Blast will actually probably win this game. I think they just look really good when it comes to contenders talent. I don't think Shanghai is going to be a super easy role. I think Shanghai will fight. I think as long as Viper and Hisu can play well and kind of do what they do best, there's a very real possibility that they can take some maps and stuff here. But O2 Blast is really good, and if any team would be able to get past an Overwatch League team from contenders, it would be O2 Blast. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they can make it that far. Now we move to the final two matches here. O2 Blast, Dallas Fuel. I think the Blast can compete with the Fuel. I think the Fuel is a better team, though. I think they should be able to win it. I'll say 3-2 for the hype, because I think O2 Blast is, like I said, very good for contenders teams. Arguably, all of their players right now, or most of their players right now, could be in the Overwatch League if they haven't already. But I think you have to favor the Dallas Fuel. Even though they've struggled a bit, I still think they're better. One of the best coaches, defending champions, superstars on this roster. As long as you can kind of do your thing and play to your strengths, I think the Fuel should be fine. But I kind of hope we see the O2 Blast challenge them, because it'd be cool to have a contenders team do very well in this tournament. This would set up a Soul Inferno Dallas Fuel finals to determine the final spot in the APEC region, who would be qualifying for the Midseason Madness. Infernal, I picked them to win the first time. I think they'll win the second time. I think it would be a 4-2 victory for the Infernal over the Dallas Fuel. Much the same reason I said before. As much as I like the Fuel, what they've done, I think the Infernal just look too good right now. I think they look like the most complete team in this Eastern region. They've been dominant, even, winning against the two best teams in their most recent matches, right? They're kind of on fire right now. I think they're the team with the best kind of momentum going into this tournament. And so I think they will take their group. So there you go. The two teams that I have moving on from the Eastern region. I have the Seoul Infernal and I have the Guangzhou Charge. Very similar bracket runs for them. But there you go. Those are my picks to get out of the Eastern region. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, why, where, how, all that type of stuff. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. That is going to be all from me for today. Thank you all once again for watching. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.